All right. And I believe we are live. Welcome to episode 5 of the One Mic, One Game podcast call-in show. I'm your host, Mike. I'm going to be doing it solo tonight, and I'd like to welcome you to the show. This is a podcast where we present a board game topic, and we invite you, the caller, to call in and discuss that topic with us. Real quick calls. Don't want you giving us your life story, but we would like to hear your insight as to what we're discussing. On this show, I'm going to be going over games that I've played recently, any kind of new acquisitions that I've got. And because I just got back last night from Dice Tower West 2026, I do have a bit of the con crud, not too much, but a little bit. And hopefully it won't affect this show too much. But this week's topic is going to be that one positive con experience you'll never forget. Now, this could be a game that you played with somebody. This could be somebody that you met, maybe a personality that you met at a show, or just a positive experience. Somebody was welcoming to you and you ended up making a lifelong friend, or, anything like that. I'm going to get us started here, I guess. Oh, let me get the phone number up on the bottom there. Phone number to call in is 564-333-9433. That's 564-333-9433. Call in. We would love to hear from you and hear about your positive con experiences. And it, again, could be a game that you learned how to play and that you absolutely loved and you ended up buying it afterward. So like I said, I just got back from Dice Tower West 2026 in Las Vegas. I met Dan, who has been on the show several times, and also Nick from Florida. Both of them are from Florida. I've met them through the Beans and Dice gaming group, a group that I severely miss from when I used to live in Florida. It was a great gaming group. I had a lot of friends there that I shared a lot of similar gaming likes with. And you guys are missed, definitely. So if you're watching, just know that I do wish I was there when game day does come up. But anyway, we met at the airport Tuesday. I know I'm not really talking about the topic right this second, but I promise I'm going to get into it. And we made our way over to Westgate, and the first, I would call it day 0, which is Tuesday, actually the day before the con. We got over there and got some initial gaming in on that day. And I'm going to be going over the games that we played. My initial idea, and I think I mentioned this on the last show, my initial idea was that I was going to bring a microphone with me, which I did have, and it, looked, professional or whatever. And I was going to go around every single day with a question of the day and, kind of out of the blue, hey, I'm One Mic, blah, blah, blah. The question of the day is, and kind of, get people's initial answer to whatever the question of the day was. So I had like number of questions lined up for each day. And it was late on day 0, technically. And I happened to see Chris Yee from the Dice Tower walking around. And I was like, this is the perfect time. I'm going to, my first question of the day was, what is, or that one game you play at every con, or you must play at every con, or something like that. And, I had the camera on the selfie stick, and I was kind of one man showing it. And I had the microphone, and I was like, Chris, we go up to him. And I asked the question, and it seemed like, I don't know. I don't know what your idea is like about a YouTube personality. Don't get me wrong. I love Chris Yee, and I've met him before, and he is a great person to talk with, and he's funny. And it was just one of those, I don't know, maybe I had this thought in my head that when I question throw a question, especially at a YouTube personality, that they're always going to have an answer ready for, whichever question, board game related question you might throw at them. So, I asked the question, hey, Mike, what's that one, or Chris, what's that one game you play at every con? And I could tell I caught him off guard. And he's like, well, that one game I play, I'm not even going to play the video, but it was like, that one game I play is, when I get up in the morning and I stretch, what kind of noises is my body going to make? And I was like, oh, that's interesting, And then he said, well, really? And he said a game that I wasn't familiar with, but I mean, at least he did say a game, And I was like, all right, thanks a lot. And almost immediately I saw Tom Vassell, like towards the game hall entrance. And, I go running over there and I'm like, hey, it's Tom from Florida. And if you watch the Beans and Dice podcast where they do a call-in show, you'll understand the inside joke, especially if you're Beans and Dice family. I highly recommend going and watching that episode where Tom Vassell actually called in and Carlos was running the show himself. And he always says, who am I speaking with and where are you calling from or something to that effect. And it was Tom Vassell, and he said, this is Tom from Florida. And Carlos had no idea that it was Tom. And people are in the chat, that's Tom Vassell. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. So I asked Tom the same question, what's the one game you play at every con? And even he couldn't give me like a straight answer. Me and Dan, I mean, that's a given. It's like Tyrants of the Underdark. That's the game we always play every day of a con, twice a day probably. And, Tom Vassell was like, well, maybe it's, I'm trying to remember the name of the Magical Athlete. And then he's like, well, I was fully expecting him to say Cosmic Encounter. And he's like, well, Magical Athlete's a little too new. Maybe it isn't that. Maybe it's, Cosmic Encounter is good, but do I really need to play it every? And I realized at that point, and I thanked him and he was gracious. I was gracious about it. And, he was very nice and everything. But I realized at that time, maybe proposing a question out of the blue to people, in general, probably isn't the smartest idea to get answers out of them. And I kind of jettisoned the idea at that point that I wasn't going to do the daily thing and ask the questions. And I don't know. I think part of it was that. And another part of it was I don't get the game like this very often. So I think I'm going to spend my time gaming. And would it have taken that long for me to really go around to maybe a dozen people, out of the blue and just kind of randomly ask them the question of the day? Probably not. But I don't know. I give props to content creators out there. This is really kind of like my first foray into doing it on my own, like carrying my own channel. And yeah, I give props to those people. It's work. It's definitely not easy. So anyway, that's my initial start here. Again, the topic of the day is that one positive con experience you'll never forget. And I had a couple. One, I'm going to go through a couple here, and one is not really a positive experience, but more, I guess, a story that anytime something like this comes up, Dan and I will always tell this one story, and I'm probably stealing this story from Dan, but it did happen to the both of us. It was at, I'm trying to remember if it was Dice Tower West 2019 or Dice Tower East 2019, or maybe one of the Escape Winter Cons. I'm pretty sure it was Dice Tower East, though, because the con hall was pretty big. But anyway, we were in between. So this is the story. I freaking love this story. This is, we were both in between games. We both ran to the bathroom, to use the facilities. And we're standing there at the urinals. I promise this isn't going to be gross. It's just kind of gross, but not with the bathroom. But anyway, we're both there. A guy comes out of the stall from behind us, and we notice that he walks out of the bathroom immediately, like he didn't wash his hands or anything. And Dan and I are very conscious about that. So, we're done. We wash our hands. We're walking back to our table, and we happen to see the guy, like, in front of us in a distance. And the guy sits down at this huge round table where several people are there, and at least half a dozen people are sitting at this table. And they had this communal bag of trail mix that was going around the table, and this guy reached right into the bag, grabs a handful, and like hands it off to the next person. And Dan and I saw this happen, and we just kind of like looked at each other, and we knew exactly what the other person was thinking, and we just could not get over the fact that you just have no idea what happens when you're not at a table, at a board gaming table, when somebody leaves. It's just these little hidden things that you never know what could be what could be happening behind the scenes. So every chance we get, we always tell this story. We always joke about it. Like we always wondered what happened to the rest of the people at the table. After, did they catch something? Like a stomach bug the following day or following days after that. Anyway, we think that's one of our favorite stories that we always tell, and we always laugh about it. So again, these are just the kind of things that I would love to hear from you guys. Even if it was your first con, whatever it is, give a call in. 56. I'm still laughing to myself thinking about it. 564-333-9433. I would love to hear about that one positive con experience you'll never forget. That's the topic of the night. Also, give the video a thumbs up if you like what's going on. Give it a thumbs down. Just put in the comments why you don't care for my ugly mug and a face for radio. And let's move on to the second one. The second one is actually from it's kind of a combination from last year and this year, where last year was the second year Dan and I went to the con, or Dice Tower West, and second year in a row that we did it. And Dan had to leave early that, I think he left Saturday night possibly. And I had one or two friends that I knew that were there, and one of my friends being Ashwin, who is a game developer, a board game developer, and he was sitting at this table, and he's always inviting, like anytime he sees me and there's a party game going on or something, he always invites, hey, come sit down with us. We're in the middle of the game, but you'll fit right in, And there were these two guys, James and Brian. If you guys are watching, call in. I'd love to hear from you. It was great seeing you this year. But they were sitting there, and they were all talking like they had literally known each other for years. I thought Ashwin knew that they were going to be there, and, they're just laughing and having a good time. They invite me to sit down. We're all kind of gelling really well. We all went out to dinner that night. I think we went to the all-you-can-eat sushi place that's in the hotel. So anyway, I think it was the following day. I asked the guys, I was like, where do you know Ashwin from? Like, where? And they were just like, we don't know Ashwin. Like, we just met him at the con, that day. And it was like this, it was like this camaraderie that you don't, some people you meet and you kind of gel well with, and some people you don't. But it was just this camaraderie that you thought everybody knew everybody else at the table for eons. And the same people, James and Brian and a couple other people, and I'm sorry I can't remember your name off the top of my head, but we all were like, oh, you going this year? Yes, and ended up meeting them. And again, it was like we just kind of picked up where, we left off, where we were just kind of like, hey, how's everything been going? And, how's your store? James owns a I don't know if it's only a card shop, but I think he also sells games there. But he owns a store where he's from. And Brian, who is always just this, jovial person that is loud, but in a good way, just always welcoming. And it was like we never missed a day. Another person that I kind of met through the Neon Gorilla Discord channel. I highly recommend his YouTube channel if you haven't been there. He's a great guy. David and his wife, Courtney, I think his wife's name is Courtney. We had messaged each other last year. Oh, are you going to be there? Let's play some games. Met up. He's a really nice guy. His wife is really nice. I think his brother was there last year. He taught me, he refreshed my mind about Project Elite, which is a game I love, and he loves that game. And then I ended up teaching him Tyrants of the Underdark, and met him again this year. And I've only played Too Many Bones once, and he's played it. He probably has like 50 games of that under his belt, which is pretty impressive. So he kind of DM'd the game for me, him and his wife, to help me get, kind of relearn it in a way. But we got together, we gamed, and kind of kept running into him, throughout the con. But it's just these friendships that tend to happen at times at these cons where you meet these people, and they seem to be great friends, and they seem to be great people, and you look forward to next year to see them again. Those are just, I don't know, there aren't too many. I don't know. When you get older, it's hard to make friends, like true friends, I guess. And these are people that I truly look forward to seeing again year after year. If I get to go next year, I would look forward to seeing them again as well and getting some games in with them. So I'm sure that there are people out there that experience this all the time. It's, somewhat new to me, because even the past cons that I've been at, I've never had an experience to that degree. It's always been, when I went to cons in Florida, it was usually with the Beans and Dice gaming group that I was with. And, you tend to play with the same people, but in this particular case, it was nice to meet new people that, you get to look forward to. So that's my second story. I'm moving right along here. This is going to probably be a quick podcast or a quick call-in show. Again, I would love to hear from you. Call in and tell me about a game that you played, or, a friendship you made at a con. I love hearing these stories, and, let's spread some positive feels throughout the interwebs. A call-in show, so make it a call-in show. The call-in number is 564-333-9433. That's 564-333-9433. Excuse me for a second. I got my voice. I got to get some water. Anyway, I got one more positive experience. I mean, I have others as well, but let's get into one more positive experience. Let me see. How do I put this one? I don't know if it was positive, but it definitely is a con story. Another one that Dan and I always laugh about. I think it was, I want to say it was one of the Escape Winter Cons that go on in Florida. And you can sign up for playing games. If somebody's maybe teaching a game, there's X number of seats. There's apps and stuff like that you can sign up for, where you can grab a seat and, join in on these things. So this one guy put up that he was teaching a game of Dominant Species. And it's a game that I might have played once or twice before, but I really, I couldn't remember any of the rules. I don't think Dan ever played it. So I told Dan, I was like, hey, I'm going to sign up. This guy's teaching it. I think it'd be a good opportunity. Excuse me. So Dan signs up with me, So the guy that was teaching it, the other two people that were sitting at the table, I think knew the guy. and had played games with them before in the past. You could kind of tell by the way they were talking with each other. So, the guy's teaching the game, and as we're playing along, he's kind of throwing in some extra rules, when we get to that point. And Dan and I are kind of similar, where if it's our first game of any game that we're learning, we will do whatever just to see what the actions do. Like if there's an action resolution, well, I'm just going to go here and see how it plays out. That's kind of how I learn games. That's the easiest way for me to learn games. So, I'm taking my turn and like, I don't know, let's see what this does, So apparently I blocked the guy from doing something like what he was planning on doing, the main guy. Some of the moves that Dan and I were doing, I don't know, it was just kind of like, and I'm getting to the positive part, but some of it, the other people were like, you're probably not making the most optimal move. And the other people at the table were like, oh yeah, that's an interesting move, and you're kind of like, if it's not good, it's okay to say, well, especially towards the beginning of the game, I see that you're doing that. It might be optimal to maybe think about or whatever, kind of throw your experience out there and try and share that with the people. And, we're going through the game, and apparently either Dan or I blocked the guy again from what he was doing. And the guy's in first place, he obviously plays it a lot. He taught it. Well, anyway, we're past the midpoint of the game or whatever. And whatever I did, it blocked him again from doing what he wanted to do. And the guy overreacted, in my opinion. Dan, I would say, would probably think the exact same thing. Well, anyway, he had a baseball cap on, and he rips the cap off, and he literally chucks it across the table, and it, like buzzes right by the other guy's ear that's sitting across from him. And I look at Dan, and Dan looks at me, and I was like, kind of like deer in the headlights reaction to this. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy's in first place. I mean, is this really that positive? No, but damn if Dan and I don't laugh about this freaking thing that, we always just joke about it, or I'll just rip my hat off and throw it across the table. Well, anyway, the game ends. The guy ends up coming in first place. Somebody else at the table was in second. I might have come in third or fourth. I don't even remember. But just the fact that this Teach has produced this story that Dan and I still laugh about to this day, kind of similar to the bathroom break one, is just a testament to all kinds of funny things, or maybe negative things may happen at a con that you end up laughing about or remembering years and years later. So anyway, yeah. So anytime that dominant species comes up, or teaching a game, or similar things, but Dan was ready to walk away from that game, and I thought it would have been hilarious if he did, or I definitely would have followed him as well, because I was kind of second guessing even staying at the table for the game. But anyway, those are my three positive con experiences. I mean, there's others where I've met Dice Tower Crew. I met Paula Deming at, I think, the last year's Dice Tower West, and she was very pleasant to speak with, and just as nice as you think that she would be in real life. And just meeting friends, getting good games played, and the like. So anyway, again, I would still like to hear from you. If you want to make this a call-in show, that would be awesome. I've got a whopping one person in the chat other than myself. And like I said, give it a thumbs up if you enjoy the show. Subscribe to the show. I do this the first and third Tuesday of every month. And if you hit the notification bell, I typically will post when I'm going live about a week prior. And I do shorts and the whole 9 yards. And I would love to have you join me and possibly call in when I do the show. So speaking of call-in show, or speaking of playing games at Dice Tower, I'm gonna review that really quick, and hopefully, I've always had technical difficulties with this, but let's see if I can get this working. Where I'll just pull up my. I'm gonna go to Board Game Geek, and I'm gonna pull up the games from BG Stats that I played this week. I missed a few party games here in the list that I try to catch everything, but sometimes you just can't. And there were several party games that I played more than once that I'll go over. But anyway, most of these games were played with Dan and Nick most of the time. Nick was in the the World Series of Board Games. So he was out for a few of these, and Dan was even in on one of those. So anyway, top of the list, of course, is Tyrants of the Underdark with 6 plays. Dan and I, we absolutely love this game. We think it's like one of the best deck builders out there, if not the best currently. And we got 6 games of this in. We taught it to Nick. Nick had never played it, or maybe he didn't play it for a long time and he needed a refresher. But anyway, Nick absolutely loved the game. He was up to speed, to the speed that Dan and I were pretty much by the end of the con, where we had a 3-player game set up and torn down within 50 minutes of playing. The next game. Oh, and one person that I met, I'll tell a quick story. This is another great story. I was checking games. They only let you check out one game at a time in the library. So I had Tyrants of the Underdark and Endeavor Deep Sea, which we played. It was my second time playing, but I had watched some playthroughs, and I was going to teach Dan and Nick. I think Nick might have played it before. Maybe a long time ago, but anyway, I thought Dan would really like it because I know he likes Endeavor Age of Sail like I do. It's a different game for sure, but there's some similarities there. So anyway, I'm standing in the library and I've got both of these games in my hands, and I'm messaging Dan and or Nick to like come and get the other game because they were constantly checked out. I didn't want to let them go. So as I'm standing there, this guy, Brad, older gentleman, probably like around my age, I'm guessing in his mid-50s, I don't know. I can see him eyeballing the Endeavor in my hand, and he's like, have you played that game yet? And I was like, yeah, I really like it, actually. This is going to be the 3rd time that we're checking it out. And he's like, my friends have always told me that I need to play it, and I was just curious, what it's like. I was like, well, we need a 4th player. If you want to come sit with us, we're ready to play it and I'll teach it to you. So he's like, I don't want to intrude. Or I was like, no, man, come on. Let's, I'm just waiting for somebody else to check this other game out. And by that time he was just like, I'll check it out for you. So perfect. So we walk over there. I introduce him to Nick and Dan, and, I'm teaching the game, and, everybody has their own personality. I've got mine. Dan has his, where he's like deadpan humor. You might think he's pissed off at you most of the time, even though he's not. Very dry humor. Nick is kind of hyperactive at times, where he will over-explain things, or he will make dad jokes to the nth degree. And I was hoping, that Brad would be that kind of person where, he just takes everything in stride. And he seemed to be, that type of person. So I tell him, Brad, please excuse, our friend Nick here. And please don't take Dan too seriously, because he's very, deadpan humor. He's not mad at you, or he's not pissed off. Trust me. Well, anyway, by, I don't know, 3/4 of the game through Endeavor Deep Sea, which he actually did enjoy really liking, he started joining in on the jokes, and giving shit back to, because Dan will dish out shit, to everybody at the table, and we're dishing it back, and then Brad starts joining back in with his, and we're like, oh, okay, this guy is really feeling it. That's good. And we ended up finishing the game. And we're like, Brad, we're getting ready to play Tyrants next. If you want to, do you like deck builders? He's like, oh, yeah, I really like deck builders. So we invited him to join us for that we would teach him that. And again, being very gracious, but like, I don't want to intrude. And no, sit down, enjoy, please play this game with us. We absolutely love it. So I think Nick taught it to him while Dan and I had to use the restroom or whatever. But anyway, we're playing the game, and Tyrants of the Underdark is that type of game where I wouldn't say it's hugely confrontational, but when it is confrontational, it for some reason that game, it's always like, we kind of joke about it, like, yeah, I'm causing some issues with what you're trying to do, but it's funny, and we just kind of laugh about it. I've got this damn thing up while I'm discussing instead of having my big ugly head. Anyway, so I think Brad ended up winning that game. He kind of, I don't know if it was beginner's luck or whatever, but he really enjoyed it. He's like, oh man, I've got two friends that I know would absolutely love this game. So again, it's like this friend, he said he was going to try and make it back next year, or at least I thought he did. But he would be a person like I would seek out, and I know we would have a killer time just playing games together. So anyway, so we, getting back to the games I was playing, we ended up playing Endeavor Deep Sea 3 times. We really liked it. After the first time I played it at Dragonflight Con here in Seattle last year, I really enjoyed it. Even though I didn't get a great feel for it, I could tell that it was something that I liked. And the game isn't that cheap to, especially if you want the deluxe edition. It's not that easy to get a hold of cheap or at a reasonable price. So I ended up doing the GameFound late pledge for the expansion, which adds, not that it didn't have solo, but I think it adds a true solo mode, or maybe I'm getting it mixed up with something else. But anyway, it's more, basically it was more of the same, and they were deluxe editions. So those are the kind of expansions that I really enjoy, where you don't have to learn any kind of new mechanisms or anything. You just mix it in and you go to town. So playing this the 3 times at the con really solidified that I made the right decision in backing the game. So I'm very, very much looking forward to getting the game in and learning it, or playing more of it, I mean. Next up, I kind of got into a game with Brian, one of the people that I met last year, who was very inviting, all new people at the table to me, except for maybe one other person. And we ended up playing The Gang, which is I wouldn't say it's a party game, but you're a crew trying to break into a bank. You got 3 attempts, and you're playing 5-card stud, I think. You're dealt 2 cards, and based on the cards that come out afterward, like the community cards, you're picking up chips with stars on them, depending on how many players there are, 1 through the number of players, on how strong your hand is. And the goal of the game is to get past the 3 locks, or whatever they may be, to break into the vault. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to have ascending hands by the end of the game. There's going to be 5 cards, or first you look at your first 2 cards, you grab a chip, and then 3 cards come out, and then 1 more, and then 1 more. So that's 4 rounds that you're doing. And you're supposed to, in ascending order, have hands that gradually get better. So you might have just a high card in your hand even after all the cards have been dealt. But each round you're grabbing the chip with the number of stars on it. Your hand may improve, so you might grab more stars. But it's this conversation that you're having without telling people what you have, your hidden 2 cards. It creates this fun banter and just this back and forth of trying to get people to understand, like, no, I have the better hand. And they're like, no, I have the better hand. Well, anyway, played this 3 times. I love the game. I would probably buy this if I didn't have so many games right now. I could definitely jettison a few games that I don't need and replace it with this in the future. Next in the list is RoboTrick. I've talked about this. This is a 3-player only trick taker where you're playing against an AI robot. You're playing 3 rounds. If you lose the hand, you're getting your card back that you played in negative points. You can only win 3 tricks, and after that, it's all negative points. Dan and Nick and I played this 2 times, and then Nick, somebody that he played in the World Series of Board Games, I think her name was Mary. We invited her to play. I think Dan already went back to his room after that. I'm not going to go through all these games like to this nth degree, but I feel the need to explain some of these. So Rebirth, Dan, Nick, and I, we played it. We played both sides. It was my first time playing the beginner side is the Scotland side. So we played that, and then we immediately re-racked it and played the Ireland side, which adds some new mechanisms. And none of us had played that side before. And it definitely makes it a little bit more competitive, where you can get some good points going if you can line things up. And we both, all of us, really liked that side as well, and agreed that it added a little bit more to it. I wanted, one of the games that I put on the list that I really wanted to play was Ostia. This is turning into a what did we play show? The Colin show. Let me remind you guys, 564-333-9433. The topic of the show is that one positive con experience you'll never forget. Call in. Let's make this a call-in show. I know I've only got one other person in the chat, and nobody has chatted, so it's probably just somebody that's doing me a favor and joined and isn't even listening to the show. Anyway, I'm going through the games that we played at the con. Ostia, it was all of our first time playing. It's something that I've been wanting to play, and very hard to get in the States. I think they're finally going to reprint it and do another Kickstarter possibly, or just shipping in the States. Rondel action, like a very unique, well, I don't know if I can say very unique, but it's a unique rondel action where you're moving ships around the board and you're creating goods, and then you're producing things and helping your ship on the main board. There's 4 tracks that you're moving along, and there's points at the end. Very good game. I really enjoyed it. Dan really enjoyed it. I think we agreed that even though we really liked it, it probably wasn't to the point where we would add it to our collection. But I would definitely play it if anybody ever suggested that we do play it. Too Many Bones, I told you, David and his wife Courtney ran me through a game. We ended up winning at the very end. There were some very close calls where some of us were down to 1 hit point. Great game. Wormspan, I've never played it before. Nick ended up teaching it. He did a great teach of it. Very similar mechanisms in certain areas to Wingspan. I really enjoyed it. I would say I liked it to the point where I don't like using the word, this is a X game killer. Like, I wouldn't say it's a Wingspan killer for me, but the one play I did tend to like it more than Wingspan. I could see myself possibly replacing my Wingspan collection with Wormspan. Vantage, this was... I'm not going to base my thoughts on Vantage off of this one experience, because it was late. It was probably like 1:30 in the morning. I was with Brian and some other people that he had introduced me to. We were playing Obscurio, which is further down on my list. And we were like, let's get one more game in, something that all of us can play. I think there were 6 of us. And we go into the library, we pick a game, and as we're walking out, the person that I think was running Obscurio suggested, like, oh, I've got the perfect game, let's play Vantage. And I've always wanted to try it. I love exploration games. That's one of my favorite mechanisms. So I said, I wouldn't mind playing it. I don't know if now is the right time. Do you know how to play this game? He's like, oh yeah, I love this game. Okay, we all kind of agreed. I don't know if everybody 100% agreed, but anyway, we grabbed the game. He sets it up. We're playing a 6-player game of Vantage. My understanding is this is a big no-no if you want it to go smoothly, or want it to go or not take too long, I should say. Anyway, we sit down. It's late, like I said. What typically happens is people start getting giddy late at a con, and we were kind of getting giddy, and the guy was reviewing the rules, and the problem was the rules kept changing every 10 minutes because this guy could not remember all the rules in a way that I guess made it enjoyable. Even we were like halfway into the game, and we're still getting like, oh, I didn't remember that rule correctly. This is how this is supposed to work, and because you're chucking dice, and there's dice mitigation where other people around the table can help you, and he just wasn't remembering things properly. But anyway, that one was not the best experience as far as playing games. Probably, I would probably play it again, but with 4, most likely 3 or less people, or maybe even solo the game if I ever had a chance to do so. Not a pleasant experience. Puerto Rico, I played the special edition. It was in the hot game section. I've never played Puerto Rico before. I was standing there. It was, I don't know, second to last day, and I had a horrible night of sleep the night before. So I was walking around literally with blurry vision, and I'm standing in the hot room, or the hot game section, waiting for Dan and Nick to come down. And Jason Levine is... He looks like he's getting ready to teach a game, and I thought he's waiting on the 4th person to show up, like he had planned it. And he points to me, "Hey, do you want to play? I was like, I don't know how to play. He's like, no, this is going to be a teaching game. So I was like, cool. And how often do you get a chance for a dice tower, person to teach a game? And it was a special edition. And anyway, the teach went pretty smooth, and I really liked the game. Very interesting as far as you're choosing the action. My understanding is this was the first game to do that when it was made, where you choose an action, you get a slight bonus for being the person that chose it, and then around the table, everybody gets the same action. So you're producing goods, you're building buildings to improve what you're producing, you're selling your goods, you're putting your goods on ships to have them sent off. Very cool game. The deluxe edition had these really nice... I'm pretty sure they're called acrylic. I usually think of acrylic as being clear, but I'm pretty sure these were like screen printed acrylic tiles. Really nice production. If I were to buy it, I would definitely be hunting for this particular version of the game. But fun game. I would definitely play again. It was one of the better games, one of the better new games that I've played. Santa's Workshop, another late night. Nick taught that game to me. Pretty chill worker placement game. If I recall correctly, it was a pretty close score. Nick definitely beat me, but it was a great game. I liked it. I would play it again. I taught Bus to Nick and Dan. I think I got everything right. This is a game that I enjoy. Has similar action selection and playthrough as Dominant Species does. I didn't throw my hat across the table. Where you're placing your action tokens on the side, and you're taking them. After everybody is done, you're going through these actions, top to bottom, left to right, and you're basically trying to create bus routes and get more buses and deliver or drop people off at where they're supposed to be going for that particular round, which is homework or the bar. And I think Dan liked it. I think Nick liked it. Nick ended up beating us pretty handily. It's a pretty low-scoring game. You're looking at like maybe 8 to 11 or 12 at the end of the game as far as points. And Nick got 11 points on his first play. Good game. I think they would definitely play it again. I taught a game of Thunder Alley really late at night, probably something I shouldn't have done with 6 players. Everybody seemed to like it. Thunder Alley is a racing game. I think it's one of the best racing games that isn't more of a party game like Ready, Set, Bet, or I'm trying to remember the name of the first one. Is Magical Athlete a race game? I can't recall. There's another one. My mind is kind of from the Con Crud. Cats versus Cucumbers. It's a dice chucker. It's a dice chucker. I'll leave it at that. It was okay. Wonderful. It's a Wonderful World. One of my favorite engine builders, or set collection, or whatever you want to call it. It plays very quick, even at full player count. Love that game. Dan and I got a quick game of Lost Cities in while Nick was playing. I taught a game of Nikosu Dice. I was walking through the hall, waiting for Dan and Nick, I think, while they were at the World Series of Board Game. And somebody had this. There was 4 people at the table. It's the newer edition that plays up to 5. And, they invited me, hey, would you like to play with us? We're learning the game. I was like, yeah, I love this game. And I ended up teaching it, and they really liked it. It's a trick taker where you're drafting dice to put in front of you that also act like cards in your hand. And whatever the last die is that's sitting in front of you, that's basically your bid for how many tricks you expect to win for that round. You can also bid 0, where you pick up a die with no pips on it. But everybody at the table seemed to like it, and they seemed to pick up on it after like the first or second round. They started to understand, like, oh, okay, like you can force, somebody has like a purple suit in their hand and you're forcing them to play it even though they've gone over their bid, etc. They seem to like it. Blue Moon. I'm trying to remember the full name of this game. It's the newest one where it includes all the expansions. My mind... Legends, Blue Moon Legends. Boy, my eyesight, yikes. Dan and I played this while Nick was off at his World Series. We learned it. Very easy game to learn. Once you understand the basic stuff. We did play with the starter factions. It's a 2-player battler, I guess you could say, where you have a leader and you are drafting cards out of your deck for your faction, and you're playing them down. And you are attacking the other side, and they can either join in on the attack or they can retreat. And there's cleanups, and you have support and cards that you can play onto the person that you're using for the attack to build them up. This is a really cool game. Even though we were playing with the basic factions that really didn't add anything extra, any kind of new mechanisms, I would really like to play the other factions and see how they play and see how they differ. I know that this is Z Garcia's one of his favorite games. Mike DeLisio, I believe, likes it as well. And if I could get this one pretty cheap, I would probably seek it out and try to compact it down to a smaller... There is a small board that goes in between you, but this particular version has like these 3 somewhat large dragon minis that are also in there. Whoever... gets all the dragons. That's one way of winning. When you go to collect the 4th and there isn't one there, that's how you would win. But anyway, I would really like to play that game more. Next one was Obscurio. This was with the larger group. Nick joined in on this one with us. And this is kind of like Mysterium, where the ghost is trying to, I don't know if it's a ghost in this particular one, but you're trying to get people to choose a specific doorway to get through, and you're trying to do X number of doors in however many rounds. And then there's a hidden traitor that is trying to throw everybody off. So there's this part where you close your eyes, and the hidden traitor is like swapping out a couple of cards of all the ones that are put out, trying to trick the other people. And of course, it's my first time playing, Nick's first time playing, and I'm like, I don't I don't want to be the traitor. And of course, I was the traitor, so I had to do the best that I could, and I ended up winning, actually. I made everybody else fail and made me win. So it's a fun game. I would play it again. I'm not one for hidden roles or those types of games, really. But this one, it played very well. Roll and Write Records was the next game. Love this game. Play it all the time on BGA. Dan, Nick, and I played this. It's a card drafting game, and it's a write game where you're trying to create the best band, and you're going on tour, and you're trying to manage like your interviews and social media status and those types of things. Anyway, we got a game of that in, which we all knew how to play. We hopped right into it and got it played. And the last game, let me see if I can get this working again. There we go, is Done Up. My friend Ashwin had a copy of this. This supposedly is like the latest hotness from Gamma, I think, that took place recently. It's a card shutter, and you're obviously trying to beat whatever sets the people played before you, but there's these very odd rules. I don't know if it was explained correctly. We tried to decipher the rules and maybe thought we were getting something wrong. It's kind of like, I'm trying to remember the name of the game. Actually, I got it. It's kind of like Scout, where there is this ability where you can flip cards 180 and there's different numbers on the other side. And when you pick up cards from the table, because you can pick cards up and add them to create more sets, but when you're picking them up, you're actually flipping them over and putting them in your hand. I'm not going to lie. Everybody at the table was just kind of like, no, we don't need to finish this game. We're not understanding it. And again, maybe we just didn't understand it, but for some reason, this appears to be like the latest hotness going around that, like, you know, that's similar to Scout. Anyway, I'm coming up on close to an hour. My throat is getting a little hoarse. I would love, I've got a few more minutes. I'm just going to go through things that I acquired at the show or recently, and then I'm going to hop off. But if you would like to call, always happy to speak to anybody that calls. Phone number is 564-333-9433. That's 564-333-9433. Topic of the day is that one positive con experience you'll never forget. I've kind of told my stories already. We are up to a whopping 2 people in the chat other than myself. That would be great. If you're in there, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that you know when we're going to do this, which is the first and third Tuesday of every month. Anyway, going into the final segment of the show where I discuss anything that I've acquired, if I did acquire anything. All of these things were at the con. I sold a lot of games at the con, which I was glad. I'm finally to a point where I can fit all the games that I'm keeping on the shelves. And the sale shelf that I have over here is getting smaller and smaller. So anyway, everything except for one game at the con was expansions. So they're all going to kind of go right into the boxes that I already have. The first thing, this is for Project Elite. These are the Alien. This was part of the last Kickstarter where they had 2 aliens that you could get as characters to play. I did not add this to my backing or my Kickstarter backing because I didn't think I really needed it. And they're very hard to get a hold of because usually people are selling their collection all together. I ended up picking that up for pretty cheap, or at least I thought it was cheap. Now my collection is 100% complete. So that satisfies my issue with being a completionist. The other thing I got was just a couple of cards. These are for Lawyer Up. These were promo cards of the Dice Tower crew. It's E. Garcia, Mike DeLisio, and Tom Vassell. I just thought it was cool. I do enjoy the game. It doesn't hit the table as much as I would like, but it was $1. So 3 cards for $1. Can't sneeze at that. Let me see, what else did I get? This is an expansion for Merchants of Magic. This is the 2 expansions that they came out with for this game, which are, let me put that in front of my face so it actually, there we go. These 2, they had 2 expansions on the last Kickstarter they did for it. which my understanding is improved the game significantly. And I didn't back it at the time because, one, I didn't own the game, and two, I was just kind of like, yeah, I like the artwork and the whole idea of the game itself. But anyway, I put it on my wish list, like for the virtual flea market, and somebody responded and actually got it very cheap considering what they go for. I think it was maybe $25. I don't know. Usually they're pretty hard to get a hold of. The other expansion that I got, there's a kind of a funny story for this one. This is for Role Player Adventures. This is the second expansion that they did for the game. I can't recall if this was with the first Kickstarter or they did a second Kickstarter for it, but the expansion retails for like $65. And I happened to see a guy selling a copy of it in the virtual flea market. This won't be a long story, I promise. In the virtual flea market online on BGG, where you could like bid on things prior to the show and people will bring them to the show. That's how I sold a lot of my games. So anyway, the guy had it up there. I think he was selling it for $45. It's not an expansion that I need, but it would be nice to have. So I offered the guy, I was like, hey, I'll give you $35 for that game or for the expansion if you're interested. And he said, well, I'll do 40, but I really, if you don't want it for 40, I'm going to end up bringing it to the flea market and trying selling it there. So I was like, okay, good luck with the sale. Excuse me. And didn't really think about it. And I've never gone to any of the flea markets at any of the dice towers before because I'm at that point now where I don't need new games or more games, but I figured I would just take a stroll through there. Dan and I went through really quick, like during the flea market time, and it was very crowded. So they took over one of the halls. They had tables around the outside, and unbeknownst to Dan and I, they also had tables on the inside that we didn't see the first time around. Well, we walked through, not interested in anything, don't want to bring anything home. And I ended up going back into it. It was like 10 minutes before the place closed or before they closed it down. And I walk in, I was like, oh, they have tables on the inside. Let me just walk the inside tables. And as I'm walking, I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if that guy ever sold that expansion. Well, sure enough, I come across the table and there it is. And he's got it for $45 and he's got it marked down to $35. So I'm like, this has to be the guy. So I asked him, has anything been used in it? Because there's like sheets you can write on and stuff. He's like, nope, the cards are still sealed. He's like, you look like a guy that wants this. I'll give it to you for $30 if you like. And I was like, I'll think about it. Maybe I'll come back around. So anyway, I finished walking the tables and I come back around. And I say to the guy, would you take 25 for it? And the guy thought for a second. He's like, yeah, I'll give it to you for 25. So he could have made more money if he just accepted my offer previously, but I got a killer expansion for $25. Funny story behind that. The only other game that I got at the con, which I didn't expect to get, but it's the base game with both expansions. This is War of the Ring, the card game, which is Lord of the Rings related. My friend Scott, I've played this a few times at his house and really enjoy it. Plays best at 4 people or 4 players. You're playing against your partner across the table from your partner. And you're basically going through the story of Lord of the Rings. And it's just the way the factions work and the locations that come up and how you can pull up locations that previously came up. And it's just a very cool game. I really enjoyed it. Enough where I ended up getting it with both expansions for way cheaper than the actual base game sells anyway. And the last thing I got, which was waiting for me when I got home, was the expansion or season 2, however you want to call it. This is for the 7th Citadel, which I did the first Kickstarter for, and even though I really enjoyed the game, I haven't played it very much. But anyway, I did the second backing for it. And hopefully this will be the year where I get some of my legacy games played and off my shelf. Oathsworn would be nice. Matthew, if you're watching, we got to get that game played so I can make some room. Anyway, that has been the show. Unfortunately, it was not a call-in show this time, but that's how it goes. I hope you enjoyed my stories. I always tell what the next week's topic is. Again, this is a call-in show that I do every first and third Tuesday of every month at 5 p.m. Pacific. And we talk about a topic. This week's topic was that one positive con experience you'll never forget. And next week's topic, Con Crud kicking in, is going to be that one mechanism you absolutely love. I've got several. We'd love to hear from you the next show, which is going to be in... Let me see. Oh, it's actually... Oh, no. We are not having another show this month, which is going to be the 31st. It's actually... We have 5 Tuesdays. Did I say Thursday or Tuesday last time? I'm sorry. First and third Tuesday of every month. We're not having a show, a third show this month. Maybe. I don't know. It's the 31st, so that's not going to be... it's not a planned show. So it's going to be next week on the 7th. That one mechanism you absolutely love. Once again, my name is Mike. This has been the One Mike, One Game podcast call-in show. And I hope you have a good time playing games with your friends. Go hit a con up. You never know who you're going to meet and what good things could come out of it, or stories that you end up remembering for the rest of your life. Until then, happy gaming, people.